Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's October the 13th. It's really been a wild day to say the least. Volatility continues to be very high. You can see the number of bars. You can see it's just a big trading range day, really. Uh, you had a range up, a range down, a range back up. Now we got one working down, and there's probably a bigger picture in here that I don't have because I quit following the price action later here. But this has been kind of the interesting point. When you get around here, it either you can see that's kind of been the midpoint. It's either held as support or resistance all the way across here, and we've had some pretty wild moves off of this line and around this line. So it's kind of crazy, but the volatility is good as long as you don't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, it moves really quick, and you'll get stopped out really quick. And if you get it right, it moves really quick, and you get out really quick. So, um, but I circled this one area in Burgundy here. It's not that there's not a trade there, but I want to talk about it because there was something interesting that happened here. And if you were trading in, you're probably already aware of it. But we'll talk about that when we get there. I just circled it so that I wouldn't forget to talk about it. So let's back out a little bit so you can actually make heads or tails of this thing. Um, and we'll talk about the trades I saw. When I came in, prices were working up here. There's a clear two-tiered channel. We got a correction back here. Um, there's a second entry long right here. The second entry actually triggered here, and then it tried to go lower again. And I kept hoping we'd get that little tick lower, but we didn't. Um, but when it broke higher again, I really like this to the upside. You're looking for prices to come up. I wasn't sure if maybe we had a spike in a channel. This looked like, or if we had a two-tiered channel. But usually if you get it off your first two swings, you've got a two-tiered channel. And so I was looking for one more push up here, maybe up to this area up in here, which was an important area from the previous day where we found some support across there. But I really thought we would at least um, go on back up to test this area, and that's where we ended up getting. We didn't get it on this move. It took the next move to get up there. So, but I went back and forth whether or not to make this one green or blue. But I think the trend is with you, and you're staying with the trend, and prices couldn't get back below that EMA or that midline. And so I like that to the upside. And then you get a pullback here. There's a second entry long right here. Um, I don't have this short-term trend line on here. Let me go ahead and put it on here. But if you get that short-term trend line on there, it's probably even more like this right here. We didn't have a close on it yet. You can see that holds prices really nicely. We didn't have a break outside or a move to a new low. And this one, we probably had a close outside down here, actually right in here somewhere. But that would actually lend you to wanting to go long there. But the fact that this closed inside that bar, and we weren't back down to this trend line, that's the real key here. So make sure you understand that. So no matter how you drew this, even if you drew it like so, and you thought you had a closeout with a new low, you still had this lingering right here. And that is a fairly nice bullish bar right here, but it's right in the middle of this other bar. It didn't go below it. It couldn't go above it. So I think you had to wait. And when you got the trap here and you got that, notice it went lower and broke, closed all the way on its high and then opened above it, and it ticked back. And so if you had your stop there, you got filled, or if you were able to get a limit order in time after it broke higher, you probably still got filled even a tick better. It didn't matter on that one. It took off. It was off to the races. It was tempting to want to go long here, but you never got that little second move back to give you a trap, and it's right here at these highs. I don't think you could risk getting long there. Then you make a new high. There's a second entry short right there. But it's just, again, there's too much overlap. It's too close to the highs. Just wait and see if you get that trap, and then it breaks higher there and turns and goes out the other side. I like that one for a short. I didn't think you could go short right here. You had your break of this little trend, and you got a new. That's like a two-legged pullback, but it's not a very good signal bar, and so your signal bar doesn't happen till down. You can't really go short till way down here, and that's too big a bar. So just wait and see what happens. And it went higher and then turns and comes back out. So then I liked it to the short side. And then you move too far to be getting short down here. It would have worked if you had them, but you see it bounces real quickly. And again, you've got a second entry short here right off that trend line. You've got your break, but that's a doji, and then the next one's a doji. So I just didn't really like. I kept hoping we'd break higher here and give that little trap, but it didn't. But we come on down, and then we get the failed second entry long, and it turns back down. Again, this one I felt was a little bit iffy because there is some support here, and you do have a lot of overlap. But if you use the limit order here, when it broke lower, drop your limit order back in here, and you would have gotten filled easy, and then it turns down. And you probably could have considered going short right there because that's like a breakout pullback short. And then I didn't like any more shorts on that one, to be honest with you. There's one right here, and that is considered a second entry short. Actually, I should probably mark that one in green because it was tempting. And it is inside that little channel, that shorter term channel, and we did bounce off here, and you got, let me go ahead and make this green, and then I'll show you. I was looking for a measured move down here, so I still liked it to the downside. I just was waiting on a little better setup, and if you see that, this is the first break, so you don't have a new high yet, and you couldn't get it in the end, I guess, because they couldn't break it above that little trend line. But it actually does close, maybe closes outside. This could be just a little higher. It's so close it's hard to tell. But if you got that tick higher, I would have liked it there, but you never do. But aggressive traders probably going to take that, looking for this measured leg down. You see we came real close. We didn't quite get it. I don't know if we ended up, we still haven't got that low again. So we didn't quite get it, and then we finally get the break. And we got a channel working up here. And I don't think you can, this is the first break of this two-tiered channel, so I don't think that you can go long yet until you get something confirmed. You really confirm this trend line right here, but there's too much overlap. So when you get this little double bottom right here in this bullish bar, right off the EMA, right off that trend line, I like that one. It's really only a first entry counting off those highs, but you've got a double bottom here, and a nice bullish reversal bar off your trend line and off the EMA, and you weren't back to this high yet, and I really figured there's a good chance you may go test this high, and we did actually test that high in the end. But that turned out to be another nice move. You don't know that it's gonna, you're just hoping it goes to here, but this thing just keeps on going, and that's the way it's been lately. When once it starts moving, it moves really big, and some of these bars are just huge. So, and that was a nice size bar for a change that gave you a chance to get in on a double bottom when the market is now moving up. If you didn't have this little failed move down here, I'd be less inclined to like this one, but that's what I liked about it. You really got a double bottom, and it's really another test of it. So. And you get a little failed break lower there, and it moves higher. So it's like a little breakout pullback long, but I don't like that one. You're having to go long at the highs, way above the EMA. Too big a chance it'll fail. And now we've had a break, move to a new high, and you get a second entry short there. But that's not a very good setup until here, and then I just think it's way too low to be going short. You figure we're probably coming back down to here. If you found, I originally had this right here, and I still think it's right there. I think we just overshot it right there. But anyway, I didn't see a good entry on this one right here. You don't want to enter right. There's a breakout pullback short there, but again, I just don't like any of those entries. I think they're risky, and you just got to sit and watch it. But then it bounces here, and I had this line already here because I drew this line up here first and drug it down, and then of course it turns out it's fitting pretty well in the midline as we come back, so that kind of confirms it further. So Um, but you got a new low here, and you bounced off what you were looking for to be a trend line. Then a first entry short, pull back. There's a second entry short, and it fails and turns up, and that's a nice bullish bar, so I like going long there. Then, of course, you find resistance here. It was tempting to go short here, but you've already moved so far away from that high that just wait, and you're so close back to here. Um, and it was actually tempting to go long right there as well, but I think you got to wait on a second entry, and that didn't come till here. And then you don't get a very good signal bar. So what I suggest was you try to get a limit order, a tick or two back in there, and you would have gotten filled, and then it goes on higher. But right in here, all of this is kind of iffy. Um, so, I mean, you really, if we hadn't have bounced off the line again here and then made a higher low, I really would have liked this if it would have closed up on its high. But you can't get in this thing with a stop and get your stop safely in here either. So you just about have to use a limit order. And it pulled back a couple of ticks, I know. I don't remember. I can't remember specifically how far it pulled back that you would have gotten filled. But and then we turned down again. And you don't want to be going short down here off this line. So just sit tight, and you get a new low. First entry short, pull back. A failed second entry short. It reverses. Goes right back up out the upper side. I kind of like just having your stop waiting there in case it went through. But you could have waited on it to break higher here and a limit order maybe one tick back, but then you lose out on a tick too. But you're looking for your minimum to go here. And you see it did find a little resistance there. It pulls back and then goes higher. And it was even tempting to go long right there. I almost went long right there, but I was too afraid that it would touch that midline and turn down again. And so I missed that one. It's not a trap or anything. You could look at it like a breakout pullback long, but you're going long right into that midline, and this high is not very far. This one's not very far. You are looking for a new high though, so notice your break down here of this trend line, possible break. So you're looking for a new high, and it does indeed get a new high. It overshoots, and we've been trending down ever since. And so it was a nice trade, but now you're working down. There's a trap here. Again, I didn't like it because everything is right there at the EMA. This is a big move up, so you could retest that one more time. But when you got the second entry short right here, I kind of liked it. I would have used a limit order here when it broke lower. Try to get at least right even with those closes, maybe a tick back into it. And you're looking for it to come all the way back down to here at a minimum. But you did have a break, a possible break in a new high, so you could go even lower. And it does move down. You get that little failed tick higher, and there's enough room to get out before here. So just put your stop right below that one. Boom. And then now you've got a break of this, a new low, and now you're headed up. And notice this one. I may not have this drawn properly, but it looks like it's holding prices really well. So I don't know that you could have drawn it much differently. And you never get the close. You just reverse, and it starts going the other way. So that's why I was a little bit hesitant to go short in here. And it was actually tempting to go long. But you got to assume that this bigger 2 channel is probably out of play because we're making lower lows and lower highs here. So I just felt it was probably wise to sit tight. And we made a lower low here. First entry short, pull back. It looks like a failed second entry short that turns up. But notice that high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So it really turns out to be a second entry long trap. And it went out the high side, went out, and then went out the low. And it gives you a little more room to get in this thing. So even if you went short right there on the second entry short, it still worked. You had to kind of ride that little break. But there's a trap right there. And most people thought it was going to go higher again, but it didn't, and it turned down. And that's why sometimes you just have to be patient and wait. But it really got crazy, right? I mean, look how big the bars are getting. I wasn't sure what was going on myself. I kept thinking we were going to bounce here and go higher, but you never really gives you a chance to get short down here with a good setup bar. And so you need something small and something, that closes, that looks bullish, reversal type. And you really don't get it unless you've got overlap every time. This one was very bearish, so by the time this one closes, it's back to the top. And then then by the time this one sets up, you got 1, 2, 3 overlapping bars, a doji. So there's a good chance you get trapped there. So you just have to wait. And then there actually was a nice short right there as well. Notice that first entry pullback. Look how bearish that is. So there's another entry. It's set up right there. And I'm sure there's some kind of channel down through here. I would have started with that most likely. Maybe it's more like this. Let's just see what we get with that. Unless it's way down here, and there's a midline in here, I just don't see much. There could be a midline right in there. Just don't have enough price action yet. Let's just look and see with a measured. It's going to be close. Just eyeballing it, it looks like. And that's something, people keep sending me their charts, and they'll have this, and they'll draw a midline. If it's not an exact equal distance between this line from here to here and it is from here to here, it's not right. So if you're drawing one and you got your midline up here like that or down here like that, it's not right. You're missing something. So make sure you understand that. This is considered a midline, but it has to be dead center between the two, and it will always be dead center. And if it's not, then you've done something wrong or something suspect about it. So keep that in mind, because I continue to get people to send me charts, and they'll have their midline up here like so. And if that's the case, then your channel's probably more like that. And you just got a couple of overshoots down here, but we've moved too far for that to be an overshoot. So I'm guessing the midline is right down there somewhere, and there's going to be a measured move. Looks better. Way down here somewhere. And we may be close, so you might could adjust this a little bit. A lot of times when you see those gaps right there, that's the reason they're there. So, but I failed to talk about this area. Let me show you this one. You wouldn't have had this trend line here yet in place. And I really thought we were headed to test this high again. But notice this channel working up, and you don't see any break outside of it really either. So notice this little new low, first entry short, pull back, second entry short, and then it turns up. And it does get just enough to get your scalp. But what happened to me here was I already had my stop sitting there right there, one tick above this bar, because this one wasn't closed yet. And I've never had this happen. It's one of the few times, I mean, not in the ES anyway, but this thing closed and instantly shot up about 3 or 4 ticks. So there was some extreme buying right there, so much that there was slippage. I actually didn't get filled. Trying to remember exactly where I got filled. I had my stop right there, and I had another tick of slippage. So I didn't get filled on this thing until 1902 and a quarter. So right there. And notice how that's 1, 2, that's 3. That thing jumped 3 ticks instantly. And if you had your stop right here, 1 tick above this, then but you didn't have time to put it in there, so it just instantly jumped and went higher and turned down. So I was already done for the day, and this looked so good that I took it, and I had a losing trade right there. It instantly turned back and stopped me out. So I was really shocked there, and so I've never. That's one of the few times I can ever remember getting any slippage in the ES. So. It's not to say that it can't happen. The odds are very slim, and notice how this thing bounced right here on a perfect, looks like a perfect measured move between those two. So I would say we've got a channel working down here. At the very least, we probably had a short-term one like so, because you can really get that one too. And you had your break and 2 legs down, but this leg's much bigger than that one, so I'm more apt to be interested in this one. And it's still a range day too, so you can't argue with that. But anyway, I thought that was a good learning opportunity right there. I didn't read it wrong, and the price actions actually did exactly what you would expect. It got just enough, but for whatever reason, there was so much buying there that it just went right through. And what happens when you use a buy stop or a sell stop to enter the market? When that is touched, it instantly becomes a market order. So, and like I said, during regular trading hours, I rarely have ever had even one tick of slippage in the yes, but I had, I really only still had one because it moved so quickly that it probably went through the first couple. So it still was only one tick of slippage. But as far as the way the trade set up, that put me in a tick late. Plus, I got the tick of slippage, so I was 2 ticks late, and you can see it didn't work out. Even though there's enough ticks, even though there's a 6 tick movement that you need there for that to be a good trade, it didn't work out for me. And I've had that happen in some other markets where you read the market right and you have the trade set up right and you still lose. But that's the first time that's ever happened to me in the ES in a long. I've been trading the ES a long time, and I've never had that happen. So that told me right then that it really led me to think that means there was the buying was so excessive there that it was probably going to go higher. So I held on thinking that it would bounce here and go back. And when we started turning down and trading way back down here, I should have just exited and taken my hit. But I didn't. I moved my stop to below the signal bar, which was a little more than 2 points, and I still got stopped out. So I lost a couple of ticks more than 2 points. And so I was done for the day then. I didn't quite reach my target because I was being smart and had already that's why I always say, once you reach your target, unless it's just a really strong trend day, you're better off just to take your daily work and go on with it. And when we turned down up here on this double top, I should have seen it was, and I was already looking at the possible range day, but you think you get smart and you try to get smarter than the market. And again, I read it properly and it did exactly what I thought it was going to do, but for whatever reason, the market still punished me because I got slippage. So, and it moves so quickly. So not much you can do about it but that's why I try to tell people, stick to your 2 points, don't move it. If you can't get in, skip the trade. And so this one wouldn't have helped any because it literally this was fighting to come back up, and then suddenly with just a few ticks left, it went from right here all the way to right here, and it did it in the blink of an eye. So you didn't have time to cancel your order or move your order down or anything like that. So just bad luck really is all you can it's all you can really chalk that up to. And but anyway, enough about that. That's what I saw today. Again, the movement of it's been crazy, the movement we're getting and the size of these bars and all. And so just be real careful, because you can get it right and still be wrong if you're entering late like that. My guess would be, since we already had this break and a new high, that I should have stayed away from more longs, especially when it had worked back that high. So, it's easy to see after the fact, but when you're trading, that looks like a nice trap, and you figure you're going to test this, so there's plenty of room. The thing is, you just don't know that it's going to shoot up. There's going to be that much buying, and I'm guessing what happened was all these people getting short, that's where their stops were, and it rocketed through them right quick. And once they were all gone, the sellers came back and took over again. And it was really interesting to watch these bounces down here, how strong they were, only to be beaten back down just in the blink of an eye. And so that was another sign that we were probably going to go lower here, because I just, honestly, it's been a long time since I can remember seeing a bar that bullish that didn't reverse something, unless it was a trap. And this didn't really set up like a trap. There was just a ton of buying right there, and suddenly the sellers just beat it back down. So I don't know if the market's just thin right now, and so it's easier to move it, or if there's just really that much buying. With all these bars, you can tell that the volume is way up. So there's a lot of volume too. So it just leads me to believe that people are just not sure where the market's going. And when it's moving down, they're selling the heck out of it. When it's moving up, they're selling the heck out of it. But in the end, you can see the price action is not necessarily wrong. It just moves so quick that you got to be really good at reading it. And you might, this might be a time that it might not be a bad idea, if you struggle to read it quick enough, to maybe go to a little bigger chart. It wasn't so bad early this morning. You can see the bars were not quite so big early on. There's a few in there, but just look how big they've gotten. It started right in here around the lunch hour, and there's just been some heavy selling since that point. And the bars were not quite that big earlier. It was more stems on every side, but the price action was not moving quite as fast, and the bars weren't quite as big. But there's just been some big, and most of them are all to the downside. So just something to think about. Maybe experiment with a little bigger tick chart if you like. I've never done that. I've never had to, and I'm still not ready to go to a bigger chart, although after what happened to me right in here, makes you think that maybe you should. So just something to think about for some of somebody that are not quite as good at reading the price action as quickly. You might consider a larger chart. Just be careful and make sure you're on the simulator. Don't trade it live. So make sure you're on the simulator, as because your stops might need to be, if you go to a bigger chart, your stops might need to be slightly bigger, and your target might need to be slightly larger as well. So I'm hesitant to suggest that, because I don't want it to mess people up, because I've always traded a 2000 tick, and I've never traded anything different than that. So it concerns me a little bit to switch, but it might be something that I don't think it could hurt you. Just be aware that your stop size and your target might need to be slightly different. That I just leave it at that. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.